All right, the Oklahoma football team preparing for its first season under head coach Brent Venables. Venables, the third head coach of the Sooners since 1998. Now, he's a man who has spent 13 years as the Sooners defensive assistant, was a member of the most recent OU football team to win a national championship. But of course, Venables had a little detour. He left OU more than a decade ago. He helped Dabo Swinney and Clemson win 2 national championships in the past 7 years. But now leading this Oklahoma football team in 2022 as we take a look at our rankings with CBS Sports, the top 25 there. The Sooners, the highest ranked Big 12 squad in this year's CBS Sports top 25 preseason poll. You see them there at number 7. Baylor, of course, coming in at 10. When you're looking at the top 10 there, not too shabby of a ranking. Let's see what happens. Let's welcome in our Danny Kannell. So, Danny, we're going to go back to last season real quick. And, there's been so much that has gone on. You have Lincoln Riley, of course, running the show. And then for the first time since Riley stepped on foot at that campus, they were not Big 12 champs. Then the season kind of goes crazy. Riley bolts for USC. Now, when you kind of take a step back, now that it's been a while and you've had some time to kind of process how everything went down, are you surprised in the manner that everything took place?
Yes, the whole college
football
was completely shook when what transpired at Oklahoma transpired. Because do you remember, Jenny, like the night before he left for USC, there was the Oklahoma State game, they lose in Bedlam, and then Lincoln Riley says, I am not going to coach at LSU. And the whole fan base breathes a sigh of relief, and they say, okay, we got our guy. He's not going anywhere. And then all of a sudden you find out he's going to Southern Cal. He was going to LA to take the job for the Trojans. And then it was all out panic. And the Oklahoma fan base was so distraught, thinking, how could this happen to us? I mean, it was like a jilted lover. Like, we are a program that you don't leave. We are a destination job. And there was a lot of panic, a lot of stress. And man, I tell you got to give credit to Bob Stoops, who took over, coached the bowl game, settled things down, led the coaching search. So it was a dicey few weeks, maybe even a month, until they got their guy. And it does feel like they got their guy in Brent Venables.
It seems like they got their guy. And of course, Venables, he has quite the history with the Sooners. He had so much success over there at Clemson. So do you think that he is the guy to now lead the charge and get them back to their championship ways?
I do. I think he's the perfect guy for the job. When you look at the tradition that he's had, that's where he started his coaching career. He learned under one Hall of Fame coach in Bob Stoops, we mentioned before, who helped this search. But then he went and coached under another in Dabo Swinney at Clemson, and was I would say, outside of Kirby Smart, who was the highest sought after coordinator at Alabama before he went to Georgia and had so much success there, Brent Venables was a name that always came up, that everyone said, this is the guy that's a surefire home run as a head coach. But Brent Venables is like, no, I don't want to just take any job. I want to wait for my dream job or the perfect job. And then it opens up, and voila, we all of a sudden have Brent Venables willing to walk out of Clemson in a great situation and take on this challenge in Norman.
Yeah, our Dennis Dodd actually took the time to go through the list of all new hires, and he rated this one, Oklahoma's hire, Brent Venables, as an A-. So I would say that that's pretty good, an A-, yeah. Not too shabby there. So when Venables was putting the staff together, though, he didn't want to cut any corners. So he tried to bring as many people back as he possibly could, but he also brought in former OC from Ole Miss and Jeff Lebby. So Lebby, what he's done at Ole Miss and just his pedigree has been incredible.
Yeah, I talked to Jeff Lebby around the NFL draft. He was there with Matt Corral, and I tell you, the excitement that's around Norman, because the offense was it's one of the most prolific offenses in college football since Lincoln Riley has been at the helm. And so there was what are we going to do offensively? When Jeff Lebby was announced as the hire, it was, we're not going to see much drop off. And I would tend to agree with that sentiment. It might look slightly different, but overall, this offense is going to be high powered. They're going to put up a boatload of points. They're going to go fast. I think this is something that is again, if Brent Venables was the home run hire as the head coach, the home run hire was Jeff Lebby, who they were able to lure away from an SEC school that would have paid him whatever he wanted to stay. And he said, you know what, I'm going to go take this opportunity at Oklahoma. So I love this hire from that stand, too, for the Sooners.
Yeah, you kind of look at the stats there, his 2019 UCF stats, because that's back where Lebby was before that. He was incredible out there. Then obviously all the success that he had at Ole Miss. And we talk about UCF there in a second. We got to talk about the quarterback situation at OU. So obviously Caleb Williams makes the jump over to USC, and they're like, what are we going to do now? They bring in a guy named Dylan Gabriel, who I saw play at UCF back in the day, and he's had incredible success there. So what can we expect from Gabriel?
And his offensive coordinator was
Jeff
Lebby, which is, it all is coming together. Again, it is crazy, the roller coaster ride of emotions that Sooners fans have had, because there was this panic, and then every single announcement that got made, Venables is the head coach, Lebby is going to be the coordinator, and then it's Dylan Gabriel, who led the country in passing in 2019 with Lebby in Orlando there at UCF. It all started to fall together where all of a sudden it's like this team, which looked like it might have been in rebuild panic mode, all of a sudden is reload, potentially getting even stronger. And I know there's some significant losses, and Caleb Williams is a great quarterback, but if you went around, Jenny, and ranked the transfer quarterbacks, I liked what I saw from Dylan Gabriel at UCF more than I liked what Caleb Williams did last year at Oklahoma. It was a shorter body work for Caleb Williams. He was a little bit more erratic as a younger quarterback. Dylan Gabriel, his freshman year at UCF, was close to flawless, and made people forget about Mackenzie Milton, who helped UCF get to that, co-national championship they love to claim. So I think Dylan Gabriel is a quarterback to watch out for this year.
Yeah, he had a little bit of an injury situation, a broken clavicle back in 2021, but healthy as can be right now, so that's exciting. Now, there is talent around Gabriel as well. Historic freshman campaign, you got to remember receiver Marvin Mims out there. He did great in his freshman year at 5 touchdowns, 32 passes, 705 yards out there, second season. What do you expect this year? Do you expect an uptick in production from last year?
Absolutely. I mean, this program, again, losing but then gaining. They lost 4 of their top receivers last year to the transfer or to the NFL, which is going to provide a massive opportunity for Marvin Mims. In fact, Jeff Lebby said he reminds him already of Elijah Moore, a receiver they had at Ole Miss, who was tearing up the NFL in his rookie year. So that is pretty illustrious praise to see from Jeff Lebby. I think he's a guy that can pop the top off of a defense. He can get you yards after the catch from an accurate quarterback like Dylan Gabriel. But then you pair that with Drake Stoops, Theo Weiss, a couple other guys. This wide receiver room, while they might be fresh faces, will not be devoid of talent.
All right, so we looked at some of the key additions, some of the changes. When you look at the Sooners' schedule, though, how do you think it all plays out? Are there certain matchups that you're most excited about? I mean, what's when you're looking at the schedule from top to bottom, what do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, the Nebraska game is going to be tricky, although Nebraska was a 3-win team last year. They're going to be better, but I still think they win that game. I think you got to be careful with TCU that you don't look ahead to the Red River Shootout, which is the game after that. But that Texas game is the one that's always going to be circled as one of the best rivalries in college football. And then be careful. Oklahoma State, if I like Mike Gundy, he's got a veteran quarterback in Spencer Sanders. I think that might be the toughest game on the schedule is that Oklahoma State game late in the season. But I like the Sooners a lot.
So you saw that schedule breakdown.
Yep.
The over-under right now is set at 9.5 games. So what do you think?
For the life of me, I look at this, and I think this is one of my favorite win total plays and take the over.
All right.
This is a team that won 6 straight Big 12 championships. I think they got better defensively. I don't think you'll see, because of Brent Venables' influence, I think they'll be tougher. The offense, I think you won't see any drop-off whatsoever. I hammer the over. And 28-1 on Dylan Gabriel for the Heisman Trophy is worth the flyer if you want to take it.
We're going to keep going on this betting trend right now. So they are at, I want to make sure I have the numbers right, plus 210 to win the Big 12, plus 5,000 to win the college football playoff. What are your thoughts there?
I would not touch the national championship.
Okay.
I don't think they're in the same class yet with the 3, Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio State. But I like them to win the Big 12. I just mentioned the first time they haven't won that in 6 years. Baylor, of course, snuck in there. Where's the other team? I'm not buying into the Texas hype just yet. Oklahoma State's one that makes me a little bit nervous, but I like the Sooners to be right back where they typically are at the top.
Danny Kannell, always a pleasure to have you here in studio. It's fun chatting with you, via the screen.
Yes.
Sitting right next to you, always a good thing. And we've got some exciting football coming up. If you take a look at the top 25 here, we're looking at the top 10 though. And of course, we have those top 3 that everyone thinks about: Alabama, Ohio State, and Georgia. But you see Oklahoma right there at number 7. We were talking a lot about Baylor, the last championship for the Big 12 going on, and Baylor getting the win there at number 10 on the list. Now it's almost here. We're getting ready for that college football season. You got to tune into the Cover 3 podcast. It is the perfect call for any diehard fans. Insider insight on the hottest topics in college football. Their latest part and podcast, it was what happens for the SEC to miss the college football playoff. Now, I don't like the sound of that podcast at all, but I do support our fellas there. So take a listen today.
Speaking of podcasts, how about a mini late kick podcast? Josh Pate is going to join us next.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.